What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Bryant Bulldog Sports Hour on 990 WPOB, the number one radio program for all things Bryant athletics. I'm your host, Brian Costa, reporting to you remotely. I'm joined alongside, as always, by Matthew Carvalho in our Sprout co-working studio. Matt, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing all right, Brian. Enjoying the start to this February. How are you?
Doing well, Matt. Glad to be here back on the air. I know we had a couple weeks off there with the snowstorm and some different things just that kind of transpired with scheduling, different conflicts like that. So glad to be back on the air with you tonight, Matt. We got some great guests in this first show back in these last 2 weeks. We have head women's basketball coach Lynne-Ann Kokoski joining us to break down her team's overtime victory against UNH. And then in our primetime 8:30 slot, head men's basketball coach Jamion Christian will talk about his win over the Wildcats. And then in our final segment of the night, head football coach Chris Merritt returns to the show to talk about the state of his team and the football world. Obviously, the Super Bowl is coming up, so we're going to talk about that with him. But Matt, also, Coach Merritt is a Indiana University football alum, played there for 4 years. So we're going to get his thoughts on, his alma mater winning the national championship. Obviously, an incredible accomplishment for them. So we're excited to pick his brain about that a little bit later on in the show. But Matt, like as we kind of said in the opener, we had two big-time victories for the basketball teams this weekend, defeating UNH. For the women's side, they had dropped their last four games, including a tough one against Binghamton here at home, and then they were able to go on the road to Durham. And while they initially looked in control early in that game, UNH was able to claw their way back, but Bryant was able to pull away and get the victory in that one. And then similarly in the men's game, we had a tough game for them out at Binghamton. Just some things didn't go their ways in the final 2 or so minutes of that game. And then in the UNH game, they went down by 9 pretty early in that game, and there were some doubts about what was going to happen, but they were able to persevere through that and come back stronger. So it was exciting to see what they were able to do there. So really good stuff on that end. But Matt, just give me your thoughts.
Yeah, no, it was definitely an impressive feat for the squad. Just for both of them as well, just to see a couple of wins this weekend on the Bryant side, women's and men's as well. Just great to see in this point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt, we're also getting to the point now where it's actually transitioning into spring season. So it's that kind of crossover period between winter and spring sports. So we have softball starting up this week. We have men's and women's lacrosse action going to be going on this weekend. So it's going to be a busy weekend all around for Bryant Athletics, just not even in just including the basketball schedule. I mean, both teams are getting into the second half of the America East Conference slate now. So really looking forward to that. But Matt, we're going to have, Coach Lynne-Ann Kokoski joining us momentarily. Matt, do you want to pause for a quick commercial and we'll come back and have Coach Lynn uninterrupted?
That sounds great, Brian. Let's do it.
Perfect. We'll head off to a quick commercial break. You're listening to 990 WBOB. We'll have Coach Lynne-Ann Kokoski when we return. Welcome back to the Bryant Bulldog Sports Hour on 990 WBOB. Kostiw and Carvalho with you here on Monday night. And now, without any further ado, let's jump into our first guest of the night. They are brought to you courtesy of the Sprout Co-working phone lines for all your co-working needs. Large or small, visit sproutcoworking.com. Now on the phone line is head women's basketball coach Lynne-Ann Kokoski. Coach Lynn, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Brian. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Coach. Glad to have you back on with us. We'll kind of just start off with your opening reactions from the weekend, gutting out that, gritty overtime win.
Yeah, we'd like to keep it interesting. 2 overtime games in a row. Obviously learned our lesson from the first one on Thursday night with Binghamton, and to go up to UNH on the road and win in overtime. Really gutsy win and proud of the girls, happy for them. And, good start to the second time around for conference play.
Yeah, after, obviously it's always going to be a tight turnaround in general, but, when you're playing kind of those extra minutes, doing stuff like that, and then also maybe having that go the way it goes just emotionally, what did that kind of look like for your team getting it turned around to, go up there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was an even playing field, though. UNH went into overtime as well on Thursday night. So, we talked about it was going to be the team that had the most energy, effort at the end of the game. And sure enough, we went into another overtime. So, really proud of them. We got down in overtime. They scored the first bucket. We actually turned the ball over twice. Izzy Adams made one of the biggest plays of the game in overtime, and Miranda Nyborg, really helped us with 2 key buckets to lift us against UNH.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, down the stretch, you guys ended up outscoring them 10-4 in that overtime period to get the win. Just, I guess, in that, maybe what were some lessons learned, I guess, from the Binghamton, kind of, that situation and, leading to a successful situation there?
Yeah, Mimi Rubino, one of our captains, she had said that in our post game. She's like, I think, it shows a lot of growth, losing on Thursday, and then going into another overtime game, kind of just learning from that. It's really building one day at a time, one game at a time. And we did. Unfortunately, we let a lead slip away in both of those games. But, the second game with UNH, we didn't waver. And that's what I was most proud about. I thought, that was the biggest difference, I think, from Thursday to Saturday.
Yeah, your defense has been a real calling card for you guys this entire season. It's, the UNH game was the fifth time this year you held an opponent to under 30% shooting from the field. What has, I guess, been the real key to maintaining that for you guys? Through the good, the bad, and everything in between.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about that since day one. And then if you look at the games that we've lost, 6 or 7, whatever it is, obviously I work one day at a time here, but the games that we've lost, really it hasn't come down to that side of the ball necessarily. It's been more so, our shooting on the offensive side. And we talk a lot about, defense travels. That's who we'll be. That's who we've always been. And we keep it really simple. We did change a lot from a year ago in terms of the defensive side of the ball. And, I think they've really bought into that, which is, tremendous. It's just a matter of, putting a full 40 minutes together on both sides of the ball is what we're looking for on this second go around with the conference schedule.
Absolutely. One of the key players, obviously, for this team being Mia Mancini. Obviously, we know what she brings to the table. In that game against Binghamton, she eclipsed the 1,000-point mark in her career, becoming just the fifth player to do so and the second fastest in Bryant history to get to that mark. Just talk about how, obviously her overall importance to the team, but especially in this year, how that's kind of been.
Yeah, she's made her impact since the first day she stepped on campus, with her ability to score the ball. Um, I think every year she's grown in some facet, for our program and for this team. And I've seen every single point of hers go through the net. Couldn't be more proud of her. But I think I'm most proud of the fact that her overall game has developed. Not just scoring, but she's really honed in on the defensive side of the ball. I think, her overall stat line between points, assists, and cutting down on turnovers from a year ago, I mean, all of her stats in that regard have gone up. And I think that's what people kind of are overlooking when they look at Mia this year. Everyone's like, thinks of her just as a scorer. And she's really developed into more of a well-rounded player in that regard.
Yeah, and she had a kind of a tough 2-game stretch in there between NJIT and UMBC. She's been able to kind of find her footing in these past 3 games. Although she, maybe the overall shooting numbers might not be there, she's still getting points for you guys and really contributing. What do you think kind of, was able to get her back on track in those couple games?
Yeah, I think sometimes too, when you got in the back of your mind all the time that I gotta, a record here is going to be broken, or I'm going to eclipse a certain, milestone such as 1,000 point. I think that's constantly kind of in the back of your mind, and sometimes that toys with you a little bit. But I'm hopeful. Like I said, I mean, we've got a lot of weapons, so the pressure's not on her to score all the time, which I think helps her tremendously as well. And you see in the balanced, stat sheet like that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about some of the other players and contributors like Mimi Rubino and then Miranda Nyborg, who stepped up and made some big shots in that UNH game. Just talk about, their kind of leadership through this kind of time and, being able to get you guys back on track. Just talk about how they've been able to really step up.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the 2 captains there. They've been a 2-year captain for us, and they've really been the mainstay of this program. They've really helped put us on the map. And and I'll say this: they both came from winning programs, transferring in, so they understand what it takes to win. Miranda has been such a steady Eddie for us, and again, I've said this to a lot of media outlets. You can't put a price tag on anything that she hasn't done for this program. I mean, you guys don't see the stuff that she does, behind the scenes, the leadership, how she holds this team together. She is our connector, the glue on the floor. And we saw that down the stretch, I thought, in Binghamton with her fouling out of the game. I thought that was a big loss for us in the sense of her connectivity. And then Mimi Rubino, she's been a steady Eddie. She's one of the hardest working kids that we have on this roster, always putting in the time and effort. So it's nice to see her get going early in the scoring column, at UNH. And like I said, those 2 6 years, they know that their time is limited, and I think they're leaving it all out there.
Absolutely. And, it's not just the captains or the starters on this team. Another calling card for you guys has really been the depth on this team. You had Rose Nelson, who had 3 assists in that last game against UNH, making plays. And, you guys have just been really able to, have a very deep lineup. Just talk about how that has really been able to benefit you guys.
Yeah, I tell them all the time. I mean, our weapons have been the fact that we've been able to really share the ball and disperse the scoring, and anyone can score on any given night. And I think that's what, when we're playing our best basketball, we have that balanced attack. Rose came in, provided us some really, really good minutes, and where she didn't play as many the night before against Binghamton. I talk about Abby Lindsay. She's trying to get her feet back underneath her from she was out for a few weeks with injury, and so we do have enough weapons as we go through the second time around of the conference schedule. But the more we can utilize multiple people, I think the better off we're going to be down the stretch.
How much does that impress you that, you can have players like that where maybe they're not, seeing those type of minutes on other nights, but then when they're needed, they can step up and, make those winning plays?
Yeah, we talk a lot about staying ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And that's exactly what, we kind of continually focus on and harp on. I think that's why those guys, are ready and can come in and contribute like that, and I said that post game. Rose played, I think, 5 minutes against Binghamton. She played 24 against UNH. And again, her number was called. We had some really foul trouble with Nia Scott. Again, Abby Lindsay looking to, get her some more minutes here and there. And, that way that we can keep sending these fresh bodies that can also put up some numbers when we need them to.
Absolutely. It's remarkable the fact that you guys can throw, a bunch of different looks at some of these teams as you guys go throughout the season. As you guys now move into the second half of the America East Conference slate, just, giving you your overall thoughts through the first half of the season and, kind of going into this second stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of parity in the league on our side. After seeing everyone once, I think you got to show up every given night. I do think anyone can beat anyone. Our goal is to just have 1-0 days, to just focus on, one practice at a time, one game at a time, not get ahead of ourselves. Learn some lessons from some of the losses we had, obviously, and then make some adjustments in the games that we've won. And I think that's what the whole second half of the season is about. And hopefully we're playing some of our best basketball as we get down the stretch here, the end of February, beginning of March.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck with that stretch as you guys begin this week. We'll talk to you real soon. And once again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care, Coach. All right, that was head women's basketball coach Lynne-Ann Kokoski joining us here on the program. Obviously, Coach Lynn is always a great interview on the show. We love to have her on here. Matt, as we kind of, look ahead with women's basketball, they kind of had a tough stretch there. They lost 4 straight, including that tough one against Binghamton in overtime. They were able to find some resolve there in that UNH game, which was much needed. And again, I think this Bryant team, originally picked 3rd in the preseason poll, can, achieve things even higher than that. I really do. I think that they have that kind of talent on this roster, and that kind of depth would, I think, play very well in an America East tournament. So, hopefully this is a sign of them starting to find their stride once again and get back on track. Really excited for them moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. I think the team is, you're going to have hardship. You're going to go through those hard times. But they certainly seem to have started to turn that ship around and get ready for that second half of the season, which is just so significant when you realize that this season ends in about a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I think, the other thing that you're seeing, and this will be something I talk about with Coach Christian in the next segment, but you're seeing the development of a lot of young players too on this team, like Izzy Adams, for example, who's had 20-point outings throughout this season. you're really starting to see her kind of get that chemistry with her teammates. I posted this on my personal Twitter, but it was a sequence in that Binghamton game where, she was just making, some great passes, and she actually found Nia Scott on kind of a backdoor lead towards the basket, and kind of made a pass behind her, kind of almost a no-look pass, between two defenders, and it was really amazing to watch. And I don't know if that's maybe a play that happens at the beginning of the season, and that's not a discrediting her talent whatsoever, but it's just kind of finding that feel with the teammates and kind of having an idea of where they're going to be on the court, having that trust in them that they're going to do those things. And I think that speaks volumes about her and about this team and where they're going. So a lot of excitement with the women's basketball program as we move forward. But Matt, we have a commercial break, I know, coming up. When we are back, we're going to be joined alongside by head men's basketball coach Jamion Christian to talk about his team's win over UNH and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 990 WBOB. Okay, welcome back to the 990 WBOB, the Bryant Bulldog Sports Hour. I'm Brian Costa, joined alongside by Matt Carvalho. We have our next guest coming up in just a few moments. Before we get to that, we just want to say that we want to welcome them on via the Sprout Co-working Expert Hotline for all your co-working needs, large or small. Visit sproutcoworking.com. Now joining us on the show, it is head men's basketball coach Jamion Christian. Coach Christian, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back, man. Hope you're doing well.
Doing well, Coach. Obviously, first off, congratulations on the win over UNH this past weekend. We'll just kind of start with your opening reactions.
Just enthused for our team. Obviously, we didn't close out the Binghamton opportunity as well as we wanted to, but I really like the growth of this team. I think we're starting to see us come together some, play a little bit more consistently on both ends of the floor. Getting Danny Ako back really helps us. Akoe helps us back a ton, gives us a little bit more depth on that front line. Obviously, Keegan Harvey's stepping up in really big ways. The beautiful thing about a team when you put it together is you want to see it kind of grow together. And I think we're all in the midst of that right now.
We kind of talked about it a little bit at the post game, on Saturday about kind of, how you guys went from the Binghamton game and kind of going into the UNH game. I know you kind of talked about, changing up the practice a little bit. Would you kind of want to just kind of expand on that for the radio?
Just adjusting. We've got a lot of young bodies that are adjusting for the first time. I thought the first round, I'm always trying to do assessments on what we can do better. And I just felt like we really took their legs away. We, as in me, in our practices, really practicing hard and trying to make sure that we had enough experience on the floor and understand what we needed to do. And so we just kind of adjusted, our second game opportunities. We didn't really have legs in the second half. So I said, let's make a little bit of adjustment. We'll go a little bit shorter on Monday and Tuesday instead of going and competing like crazy on Monday like we have at every place I've been. We just said, let's adjust it a little bit. Let's really focus in on some small details like press break or zone offense or ball screen defense. Just keep it really simple. Try to get better at one or two things on that Monday, get them in and get them out. And so I think that adjustment, helped us this last opportunity. Hopefully we'll see as it goes through the league the next time. But, I think it's just trying to learn, how to be really good in this league, how hard you need to go every single day and how long you need to go. And, when you got a little bit younger bodies in there, making sure that they're fresh and that they feel great and competitive is going to be important. And, just trying to make that adjustment as we go along this season.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the players for you guys who's seemingly been finding their stride has been Keegan Harvey. He's had double-digit efforts in his last 5 games. He had 28 against Binghamton, 17 against UNH, and then, the double-double back against UMBC a couple weeks ago. What has kind of just, I guess, in your mind, really been going well for him?
Well, he's always been a great player, a guy that I've always been familiar with. I've always loved his skill set and his combination of things that he can do. He's starting to shoot the ball well from the outside, obviously a really strong free throw shooter, and he's really improved his post-up game with his size and understanding how to use that. Sometimes with a player that dynamic, it takes a little bit of time learning which skill to use when. And I think he's really starting to kind of figure that out a little bit. Our offense is really set to play through the post. That's how we've always wanted to play. We weren't getting production out of that position the way we needed to at the beginning of the year. So it kind of adjusted a little bit to the guards. But, it's always been really around the post. So being able to see him, being able to handle that responsibility, not just as a scorer, but as a passer, as a playmaker, setting the table up for some of these other guys. Again, he's always been a really talented player, just needed the opportunity. 21 or 22 games into his season, after not playing for 3 years, maybe just took him a little bit of time to get adjusted. It's great to see him super confident and watching him grow with our team. Again, huge part of our present and a huge part of our future. We're thankful for a guy named Keegan Harvey who can do a lot of things on the floor.
I was about to say, I know we also discussed it following the game, with the fact that maybe Keegan hadn't played a ton in those past couple of years and kind of getting him back up to speed. Just kind of, for you, just kind of what was that kind of process like, I guess, for you and your staff?
Yeah, this is the reality of it. Yeah, when you get into the mud and the season's tough and it feels really long and you don't know where it's going to go, it's just about the guys that you believe in and the guys you're gonna ride or die with. Keegan Harvey was the first guy to commit to our program when I got here. I was always gonna ride or die with him, and I knew he would respond. He's a guy who's connected to the process of becoming a good player, but really connected to the process of making sure Bryant basketball stays elite. And he's been really working at that with his teammates. He's an outstanding leader on our team, outstanding student, a guy that exemplifies everything you want your program to look like. That's Keegan Harvey. And so I just always felt like he was going to step up when it mattered the most. And it's great for him to be able to do that. Again, just such a dynamic player, but a really dynamic person. And, I'm glad I get to coach him for a second time. And I'm glad he's really stepping up and producing.
Absolutely. Obviously, as you guys are now kind of, drawing up game plans now for the second half of the season, how important do you really see his role kind of now being with this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Again, our ability to play through the post and have that physicality and have that scoring. Everyone talks so much about how many threes we take, and we're always going to take a lot of threes, but it's about threes and layups. And a lot of those layup opportunities come from being able to post up. A lot of those three-point opportunities come from the threat of being able to post up. And I think we've really got a good balance now of being able to throw that ball inside to him. And Daniel can give us some of that as well as a pick and roller. It also moves Lenny Weber into back to the 4 spot instead of playing the 5. So that changes his game a little bit, which helps him. And playing the last 2 months without Danny is a pretty big thing for our team because of the depth that it gives us. And I think it helps Keegan, be able to come in with a different type of combination behind him. It just really fits for our team.
Yeah, I was about to say with Danny, obviously, we didn't know maybe, what the timeline was going to be with him. Just talk about, for you guys getting him back now and just, how do you kind of feel that he will fit in, down low, kind of working alongside with Keegan and those guys?
Yeah, and we'll get a chance to see him and Keegan on the floor together some.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel's a guy who can guard all 5 positions. He can start by guarding the point guard and then move to guarding the 5 or vice versa. I mean, he's just such a dynamic player. But I think you could see, in the games he's played already, he's going to have 5 or 6 opportunities in a game that can change it, whether it's blocking a shot, getting a dunk, getting a rebound. We're so close in some of these opportunities, and we just weren't able to go get a basketball or go block a shot at the level we needed to. And, Daniel gives us that, and he has such an incredible galvanizing spirit when he makes a play that it elevates everybody on our team. It's great to have him back. He makes us better every single day that he's on the floor, every single day he's with our program. And again, I can't say enough great things about him. Like, he's a guy you might look and say, man, he only had 4 points and 2 rebounds, but there were plays that we weren't making before. And now suddenly, we're better with having him. And as he gets his legs underneath him a little bit more, I'm looking forward to him having a really big game.
Absolutely. Freshman standout, Tim Radofsky poured in a career-high 23 points in the win over UNH. Something that really impressed me with him was, career-high in points, but, it was only doing it on 5 and 9 shooting, and then was getting to the line, converting on 10 of 11 attempts there. Just, talk about that maturation of him, in season, being able to really get to the line, learn some of that stuff and, bettering his game there.
Yeah, his learning curve has been vast this year. He's always been incredibly talented individually, but learning how to take your individual skill and put into a winning manner, that's a whole nother thing. And it's great to watch him learn that as we're going along here, when to step into a moment, when to allow other guys to play. Again, the shot making has always been there. The playmaking has always been there, but the timing of it hasn't always been perfect. And he's really finding a way to get that timing right and to be able to, we define talent as the ability to do what you do, but to make others better. And he's really starting to find the ability to be able to do that. So many times guys are talented and we call that sort of like an ability. Like an ability is just something that you can do, but consistently, and if you don't make other people better, it doesn't really help the team. A lot of our individual skills we were having early in the season were just abilities. And now I think we're starting to put it together, where they're becoming true talents.
And I think something else that we've seen from him throughout this season is just that confidence, and you see it on the court too, where he's hyping up his teammates, he's doing all that stuff. Where maybe it's not that he wasn't doing it in the season, but I think that you really do kind of feel that he exuberates that kind of confidence. Just for you, talk about how that has kind of all transpired.
Yeah, it's all about trust. We talk about like 5 major things. We talk about trust. We talk about being all in. We talk about being connected. We talk about being present in the moment, and we talk about competing. And the foundational piece of everything is just trust. And the more you trust the guys, and the hard part with trust is a lot of times you gain trust through failure and watching how other people respond to failure. I thought the response of our team after, I mean, look, you play Binghamton in a close game. You don't close it out the way you want to. It's a ton of disappointment. You've got the 6-hour bus ride back to Rhode Island. You get back at 2 a.m. Guys got to go to class all day. Turn around and have that response at 4 o'clock against the hottest team in the league. That's a really special response by our team. And, you need your best players having great responses. And those guys came into the film room on that Friday with a heavy heart because they care about the game. They care about us being at our very best, but they also came with a heavy heart to listen, to learn how they could become better, and the ability to go and take that right away onto the floor and to apply it and adapt it right away. That's a really unique quality for any team, but especially for a team that's really learning itself, that doesn't have a ton of college basketball experience. It gives me a lot of hope for where we're going.
Yeah, you guys now head into the second half of American East play. You started up with a home and home against Albany and Maine. Just give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited to go out here and compete with these guys, to get out here for a second time, to really see how much we've grown, to see the work that we've been able to put into. I think the first time you play a team, you can be surprised by a few things and maybe get jumped on a little bit. And again, I didn't handle the second game of the weekend the way that I needed to, and that's my responsibility. So, I'm excited about a chance to right the ship and get that right, to put our guys in the right position to go be successful, to see how much our system can adapt. Once we see somebody that for the second time. I mean, if you're a true competitor, you love these round robin opportunities to go test yourself against the very best. And, we now know where everybody is in the league. We're all kind of jumbled up together a little bit. And, now let's go see who's the very best and really put our best foot forward.
Absolutely. Coach, before you go, obviously it's Super Bowl week. I don't even need to ask you who your Super Bowl pick is. I know you're rolling with your Seahawks, but just give me some thoughts, about the game as you guys head in.
Yeah, on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about the Super Bowl. Number one, New England Patriots, outstanding defense. I don't think they're getting enough credit for how great a defense they've been playing this year. Mike Vrabel, has always done an incredible job. Even you look at his teams in Tennessee, not beating themselves, putting themselves in the right position. Quietly, he's also done a great job at quarterbacks. He's had a lot of quarterback success. And so it's not surprising to see a guy like Drake May having a great season in his second year. And again, he's a guy that has a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for a long time. So the New England Patriots they've done an incredible job rebuilding that, and you can really see Mike Vrabel's footprints all over that. For the Seattle Seahawks, I love our Seahawks. I love how we've been able to build our team. Again, we started with defense just like we did with the Legion of Boom. We got an outstanding secondary. My wife laughs at me all the time because when I watch the game, I always say everybody on our team tackles. They're just so fundamentally sound on the defensive side of it. A lot of guys that people don't know about right now on that defense that are outstanding. So, just excited for that chance to go watch it this on Sunday. I do think my Seahawks are going to win. Sam Darnold, I'm not a huge Sam Darnold fan, but I'm a big believer in guys finding their way after several failures and really knowing who they are. So Sam being an outstanding quarterback, the way he's been able to play, Kubiak calling the plays, running the football first and leaning on that. So again, it's going to be a good Seahawks victory. I got a Seahawks 30-9. I just think the Seahawks are really good. I think they're the best team in football. I think they've been all year long, and I think we're going to get a chance to see that.
Absolutely. I guess for you guys, I know there's been also some talk about, around the team, whether it's been, the, proposed sale of the team that's going to come up after the Super Bowl, or Clinton Kubiak, reportedly going to be taking the Raiders job. Kind of obviously you've been a coach, like in a setting, with different stuff, but, in that kind of setting, how do you feel like, you think that's going to be a distraction for the players? Like, what do you think about that?
I don't think it'll be a distraction for the players. I think when you get to 2 weeks of the Super Bowl, I think it's a little bit different. You have so much time to prepare. Now, if we were having 1 week in between with Kubiak making the decision, I feel like it might be a little bit bigger. But the 2 weeks in between, I think, is really big. I'm sure they had a few off days this week to kind of get themselves reset, get other tickets and stuff going. So I think a guy stepping away there, doing the interview process to do that probably isn't that big a distraction. I think the Super Bowl is such a big opportunity for everybody that you're going to get them ultimate focus, and everybody's going to be locked into what they got to be able to do.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck in your games upcoming this week. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks so much. Go Dogs.
Absolutely. Go Dogs. Take care, Coach. All right, that was head men's basketball coach Jamion Christian joining us here on the program. We're going to be taking a quick commercial break. When we're back, we're going to have head football coach Chris Merritt return to the show to discuss all the latest with his team and more. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 990 WBOB. Welcome back to the Bryant Bulldog Sports Hour on 990 WBOB. Brian Kostiw and Matt Carvalho with you here on Monday night. We're in the home stretch now, so we just want to say that tonight's broadcasts are powered by Sprout Co-working. For all your business needs, from offices, meeting spaces, go to sproutcoworking.com, home of 990 WBOB and many other great businesses, Sprout Co-working. And now joining us on the Sprout Co-working Expert Hotline is head football coach Chris Merritt. Coach Merritt, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Doing good, Coach. Long time no see. Glad to be back with you here on the air. Obviously, we got a lot to talk about tonight. But first of all, with your program, your team, obviously you guys have been in the middle of signing days and transfer portal, and we've seen some of it go up on social media. I know that maybe there's some stuff we can't talk about right now, but from what is out there and what has been posted, just kind of give us the latest.
Sure. Well, we welcomed 15 new Bulldogs to campus about a week and a half ago at the start of classes. 3 incoming freshmen that are mid-year enrollees, and then another dozen transfers from all across the country. We really felt that we did a solid job here over Christmas break to fill some holes left by the portal and really just improve our roster overall. And we just finished our second week of lifting weights. We're into testing this week to kind of set a baseline, and then we're looking forward to getting after it all the way up until spring football around the second week of March. So excited these guys are in. From what we've seen so far, they're a really athletic, competitive group to join our returners in the program. And we still have a few seats to fill. We'll sign one young man this week on Wednesday, but the rules say that I can't talk about him until he's signed.
Absolutely.
We're excited to bolster that room as well. We're plugging away, and we still have about 5 or 6 more seats to fill throughout second semester before we hit the ground running come summertime.
For you guys as a program, obviously, there's, maybe the gears to kind of start turning before the season ends. But, how does that kind of look like for you guys in terms of, game planning for who you guys are going to go out and maybe target, whether it's in the portal or just with these incoming freshmen? How do you guys do that when maybe, who's going to be leaving in the portal or things like that maybe isn't, a guarantee at that time?
Yeah, I mean, first we look at our overall performance as a team throughout the season in each room. All right. And then we kind of get a base plan there. We know where we've got to get better at and where we've got to execute better at, not only personnel wise, but also coaching wise too. And then the curveball comes, they open up the portal, then you find out some guys that left and some guys who come back. But the best part about the way the current rules are for now, heck, I don't know if they're going to change it again in 12 months, but is that now all the cards are on the table. We know exactly where our needs are. We don't have to worry about them changing after spring football. We can really start to develop and invest in this roster and getting these guys ready for the 26th season. So I think the combination of our performance throughout the fall, as well as who left the program, who graduated the program, that combined kind of gives us a little bit of an idea of where we need to aim and go shooting for. And I think up until this point, we've done a pretty effective job of putting some really good football players on this team.
Absolutely. Coach, obviously, non-Bryant related news, this past month, your alma mater, the Indiana Hoosiers, ended up winning the national championship. I know you competed there for 4 years. Just give me your thoughts, from, your time playing there to where they've now, I guess, gotten to as a program under Coach Signetti. Just kind of give me your thoughts as to, how, crazy that has all been.
Well, not only just that journey, but there's a ton of storylines that have to go with the high school that I coached at before I got here.
Sure.
I coached at where Mendoza went to high school. So,
Yeah.
Where it started off, Indiana probably about 4 years ago had a pretty solid year. First time in the top 5 in a while under Coach Tom Allen. And ever since Indiana became relevant back in the Big Ten, they keep showing footage every time we play Ohio State, right? And it was, well, we haven't beat Ohio State since whatever year. And they would show some grainy footage of some football. Well, that grainy footage was my team back in in the late 80s and early 90s. So
Yeah.
really excited. I was born and raised in Bloomington. Really excited to see them start to have these seasons in the last 2 years. A lot of electricity. It's the world of college football now. Any team can do it. And I always say, don't hate the player, hate the game. And Indiana's done a very good job of combining both Mark Cuban dollars as well as a really good football coach and Coach Signetti in the program, and they it was really just a neat story. I mean, a bunch of 3 stars going out there and competing with higher bankrolls and all these stars, and not just competing with them. But boy, if you'd have told me 5 years ago that we would have in high school, we call it a running clock, right? So if you're leading by 35 points in the second half, a mercy rule, there's a running clock. And if you would have told me we would have had a running clock on Alabama and Oregon 5 years ago, I would have said, whoa, yeah, that's a pretty crazy story. But man, hats off to them. I got to see a lot of my teammates, got to experience FOMO. We had practice the next day, our first workouts at 6 o'clock in the morning after the national championship game. So I didn't get to go, but I told them I'd catch the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously that's incredible to hear about everything that transpired there. And then Coach, obviously, I know we're kind of up against it, but, with it being Super Bowl weekend, I figured we kind of, get a little bit of your take on the game as we head into it.
Well, man, this is going to hurt, all right, because we're in New England, and I get where we're at, and it's really exciting to see all the juice and the excitement with the local fans and Drake May coming to campus. But it's going to be a defensive ball game, and you got to remember, I have 3 kids who played for me in high school who are all with the Seattle Seahawks organization right now. I got Josh Jobe, a corner, Federico Morenga's an offensive lineman, and Armani Perez, who's in the personnel department. And it's kind of hard for me to pull against my boys, man. And but I'm going to predict 23-16 Seattle in a defensive battle and a late touchdown to take that lead, or a late field goal to extend the lead. And I know I'm going to get some hate mail for it, but hey, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's a win-win for everybody around here.
I mean, Coach, if you're looking for a watch party, I think Coach Christian might have something over at his place. So if you guys are looking for a watch party on the Seahawks side, I think he's got you there.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's totally fair. I think that, obviously you go into it, and Seattle's had an amazing season. Their defense is, incredible. So it's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it, nonetheless. So really excited there. Coach, just any kind of final thoughts before we sign off for the night?
No, sir. I think, like I said, we're excited. It's a great time to be a Bulldog. We're doing well on basketball courts on both men's and women's, and football program's getting better. Facilities are awesome, and go Dogs.
Absolutely, go Dogs. All right, well, Coach, we really appreciate you taking the time tonight. We'll talk to you real soon.
Take care, Brian.
All right, take care, Coach. All right, Matt, that was head football coach Chris Merritt. Matt, we got 2 coaches, I guess, rolling with the Seahawks in this one. Listen, I'm a New England Patriots fan, I will admit, so I'm rolling with the Pats in this one. But, at least I hope. I mean, the Seahawks are a good team. I want to give them their flowers and definitely give them their due. They have, I think they have a very good chance of pulling away and winning this game. I'd like to see the Patriots in this one, but, you never know what we'll see. But, Matt, we're going to sign off.
Going to be a pumpkin.
I mean, listen, Matt, I hope that's going to be the case. I mean, I would love for nothing more than the Patriots to, come away with their 7th title, and for Drake May to ball out in this game. I know there's some questions about injury stuff with his shoulder, different things like that. All remains to be seen. I mean, listen, I have loved watching this Patriots team this year. It's been a great ride. It's all going to just come down to it on Sunday. I mean, it's going to be a very fun game to watch. Look forward to it. So, Matt, we're going to sign off here. Just wanted to thank you guys all for, it's been a couple weeks since we've been back on the air, but glad to be back on doing this, and we should be back next week for more. So from 990 WBOB, it's Kostiw and Carvalho. We'll talk to you guys next week. Take care and peace out.